Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Rescue-Palooza is a fan-made beat-em-up game developed by MersoX, as well as a small handful of others. It was released in 2019 for free, and it's probably the game that every Turtles fan in the 80s wished for back then. The question is, how does it stack up today? Well, let's dig in. As a kid who grew up in the 80s, I, like most, was TMNT obsessed, at least for a couple of years. My first action figure in the Playmates lineup was Donatello, and I can still distinctly remember opening the package for the first time in my parents' car on the ride home, and how great it was to be able to create my own custom episodes of the cartoon, in between his scandalous and inappropriate encounters with my sister's Barbies, that is. Over the next year or so, I had accumulated a modest collection of figures based on the TV show. Or should I say, created by the cartoon to con us into buying them. I mean, there were so many ancillary characters that it was a bit tough to keep track of who was who or what was what. The names were getting lazy, the episodic plot lines murky, and I was getting older, so by the time the second NES game hit store shelves, I had almost completely abandoned the franchise. Outside of the main cast, I really couldn't tell you who was who as an adult. That is, until I played this game, and it reminded me just how fond I was of this series as a kid. TMNT Rescue-Palooza has it all, from tiny little nods to the franchise to the directness of being able to play as 60 characters from the cartoon, films, and comics. To say it's a love letter to the commercial Leviathan that the Ninja Turtles were back then would be a massive understatement. I can honestly say with authority and in a non-hyperbolic way that no other game has made me feel like a kid playing with action figures the way that this one does. There was a section where I was in control of Splinter on top of the turtle van that nearly transported me out of my computer chair and into my childhood sandbox many years ago, where I lived out that exact moment with my toys. It's remarkable at capturing that nostalgic feeling and never fails to impress in that regard. Until the end. But hey, this video isn't about me waxing nostalgic about my childhood. It's about a game, so how about I set aside my memories the best I can and review this thing for what it brings to the table, and most importantly, how it plays. And well, if I look at it honestly, without those memories, it's kind of a mixed bag. Visually, everything is mostly great, with a lot of clever details sprinkled throughout. As I said, there are 60 playable characters from the series, and the majority of them look like they should, when standing idle. At the end of every stage, a screen pops up to inform you which new good guys and baddies you've accumulated, displayed on a blue background that is clearly intended to represent the old Playmates action figure casings. It's really quite brilliant. The pizza coupon that was present on the second NES game box, as well as other Ninja Turtle products, is even right there in the corner. It's no Pizza Hut brand logo, but it'll do. The in-game graphics and controls are a close approximation of the second and third NES titles, only much more colorful and detailed. My favorite 8-bit Turtles game is even showcased with the map screen, as well as a few side-scrolling platform levels tossed in for good measure. These stages even include the super bizarre enemies from that first NES title, as well as Kozo Nakamura's legendary music. Thumbs up to this team for not making this strictly another arcade beat-em-up. The variety keeps the pace moving and the relatively short length helps it all speed along. The Turtles and Company are animated reasonably well, but some of the characters can feel a bit stiff and limited. Some, and I mean some, of them look and control decently, but others move around the varied environments strangely. And that's putting it lightly, and politely. Some of the ancillary characters have fewer frames of animation, and it can be a bit distracting. They look and feel a bit rigid and out of place next to the fluent enemies and well-detailed backgrounds at times, but that's kind of a nitpick, especially considering the sheer amount of playable characters there are. Maybe the team was going for the feel of the toys with their stiff points of articulation. If that was the goal, job well done. I still remember trying to get my playmates crafted turtle figures to sit on the vehicles, and what a nightmare. With that being said, the amount of work that went into the animations overall is staggering, despite not all of them working quite as well as they should. If I were to describe this entire package in one word, it would be quantity. Speaking of the vehicles in the toy line, most of the ones I remember are present throughout Rescue-Palooza in one way or another. There are a few smaller ones that can be stripped from the enemies and used in a similar fashion to Golden Axe's rideable beasts, with a finite amount of energy and ammo. Some vehicles and turtle toy accessories are relegated to the many bonus stages, which are presented after every few levels by Cuddly the Cowlick, a character from the Archie comics. They really tried to pack in a massive amount of stuff from the golden age of Turtlemania. Hey, did I mention the 60 playable characters yet? Rescue-Palooza is very self-aware, in an innocent, fun way. Throughout my half a dozen playthroughs, I never once stumbled upon anything cynical or mean-spirited. The jokes made at the expense of the franchise are all harmless and good-natured. Whether it be Shredder's opening monologue to Splinter's persistent need to say, "You have my support," this team knew exactly what they were doing. It's very self-referential, in a good way, yet it doesn't feel like it's pandering to its intended fanbase.
Behold, I can transform any substance into any form I wish. Sayonara, you simpleton!
After a very brief tutorial, the game presents the player with an open map. Each area differs in difficulty, but none are completely insurmountable from the get-go. The most logical option is generally the best path forward, which is a testament to good game design. There are a lot of revamped stages from the 3 NES titles, as well as some completely new ones that fit seamlessly together. The action sequences are relatively short compared to those from the official titles, but they are much better for it. Most of them include a wide variety of diverse enemies, and the shorter time spent within prevents them from feeling like an arduous drag. The same can be said for the boss battles, which are all action-packed and brief. Sometimes a stage will have up to 3 or 4 big collectible baddies, so being able to defeat them swiftly and quickly keeps the game moving along, which is ultimately what I think the creators of Rescue-Palooza intended.
And now here's the latest news. Prepare to taste my revenge. Watch the money.
With the game being a cornucopia of TMNT goodness, the ability to be able to breeze through it at a brisk pace enables the participant to see everything that it has to offer. It's not particularly challenging, but I don't think it was intended to be. Instead, I think it was created to be a journey to pound through over and over, with up to 4 friends experiencing it through the many different playable characters. Replaying it just to catch all of the references and to have a few laughs is what I think the ultimate goal was here. Perhaps the funniest thing in this package is the use of audio samples stripped directly from the TV show. There's There's a wide array of voice clips here that sound crystal clear, though taking damage often has the characters uttering the same line of dialogue over and over, which can grate on the nerves a bit, but hey, so did Konami's arcade game, so I can't really be too harsh a critic.
It's so true to life.
The audio is quite good all around, with the sound effects being particularly fun, specifically the noise the Krang aliens make in the Dimension X stage. When it comes to music, we've heard it all before from licensed Turtle titles, which isn't a bad thing, but I think I would have preferred a few more new compositions. But that might have also made this experience feel a bit less nostalgic and perhaps less consistent and fun, so I'm kind of torn there. What isn't fun is one particular platforming section on the rooftop. Actually, the stage all around is an absolute mess of janky programming and level design. There were a few times when these timed Foot Clan landing spots forced this to happen, and both turtle bosses in this section are awkward to fight. They are really tough not to exploit in a cheesy way, which, unfortunately, is a common issue with a large amount of the big bads in the game overall. It's also kind of easy to ignore these glaring issues, and despite their frequency, none of them tarnish my overall enjoyment of the experience. Still, I felt like I needed to make a point of mentioning them as they are consistent. Overall, Rescue-Palooza is a charming, fun way to waste a couple of hours. It was painstakingly crafted with so many little details and nods that it would take me at least a full hour to exhibit them. And those would only be the ones that I noticed. A few that stood out to me were the opening stage transitions and how they represent the title cards from the original cartoon. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention how cleverly they twisted April's presence in this thing by poking fun at the arcade game. Or how she uses her Channel 6 microphone, attached to the cord similarly to the Belmont clan. The Mega Man reference near the end of the game wasn't lost on me either. To go into more detail would ruin this tight little experience for others wanting to experience it for themselves, so I'll just say I wholeheartedly recommend Rescue-Palooza to the very specific group of people who grew up with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or defiled their siblings' Barbies with their Playmates action figures.